Hey everyone, welcome back to Talking Sense. I'm Ben. Today I thought we'd do a review of a perfume that I think is going to be kind of an interesting review, and that's Laurent Mazzone Hard Leather. So yeah, today I thought we'd talk about Hard Leather by Laurent Mazzone. This is kind of a new purchase for me. I bought it a couple of months ago. I've been wearing it quite a lot. But I wanted to kind of get to grips with it before I actually did a proper review on it, because I've had a lot of sort of mixed feelings for it. I still do have a lot of mixed feelings for it, but I really wanted to kind of wear it a bit, get to kind of understand it a bit more before I kind of reviewed it. Anyway, Laurent Mazzone Hard Leather came out in, I believe, 2014. I don't really know the brand too well, actually. I came across this perfume. I was on a Facebook group and I asked, I'm looking for a really sort of heavy castoreum scent. Does anyone know any? And this guy came back and said, oh, Laurent Mazzone Hard Leather, check out some of the comparisons and I think you'll be interested. So I was like, right, okay, what does that mean? It's a bit cryptic. So I went on, read a few reviews, and straight away I figured out what he means. So this has been in some of the reviews online, they compare it to things like Musc Kubla Khan by Serge Lutens, which is super interesting fragrance that is basically a unicorn for most people, including myself. So straight away I got what he's saying. I was definitely interested. I was like, okay, I want to try this. And then it just so happened that I could pick this up for a really good price. So I was like, bugger it, let's just try it. So yeah, I don't know too much about the brand, but Laurent Mazzone, it's an Italian house. Believe he's this is kind of his high-end line of fragrances. The note listing for it is not anything mind-blowing. So the notes for it are leather, rum, iris, honey, sandalwood, cedar, oud, olibanum, styrax, and vanilla. So, there's nothing too mad there. It's all pretty straightforward. It comes in this kind of slipcase, and then you get a kind of velvet box. That's pretty much the presentation for you. It's pretty straightforward. It's not bad. It's nothing super jazzy. It's got a Laurent Mazzone, if you can see, Laurent Mazzone kind of logo in the end. It's okay. And then the actual perfume itself is sort of pretty much standard, super shiny, super fingerprint, as you can see. Fingerprint magnet. It's all right. It's fine. Nothing too jazzy, but it gets, it's a bottle. So the actual perfume, what does it smell like? Super interesting. Obviously it's a big leather, judging straight off the top with that leather and rum in the top notes. Let's give it a spray, and I'll talk a little bit about what it smells like, because it is interesting. So one of the reviews that I read on this that I thought was really interesting was a Fragrantic review, and he said that he wore this, I think, for his and his family all thought that he smelled like a used diaper or something. So that was instantly okay, you sure? Got me, it sort of piqued my interest a little bit. But it's not that bad. So what does it actually smell like? So you spray it, straight away you're greeted with a really, really heavy, boozy rum. For me, it's all rum and castoreum and sort of fire and heat in that start. It's a really, really opulent, big opening. And it is all just rum and castoreum. And if you're not familiar with castoreum, it's like a kind of burning heat, fiery smell, which I know doesn't really help, and that's a little bit abstract. I always describe castoreum like that, but it's almost like a smouldering tire, or it's burning kind of plastics and woods and such, and it feels hot and spicy and fiery. It's a very interesting scent. It's very sort of animalic, and in many cases it can get quite fecal. Not always like super fecal, but in this perfume it does. And that's probably what I find most interesting and why I've struggled to kind of come to terms with this review and my own thoughts on it, because it is fecal in the opening. So right now it's actually not that fecal. You've got this honey coming out, and that would be, I would say, the big notes are like a honey is creeping up now below a really kind of boozy rum and sort of fiery, hot, leathery castoreum smell. That castoreum is very leathery and kind of fiery and hot, like sort of like burning leather sort of smell. But there's also, and it's coming in now, so however long this has been, like 2-3 minutes, it's starting to creep up that barnyard, that fecal element to it, and it's definitely there. There is 100% quite a strong fecal element to this. And now I normally, and this is what's interesting, is I normally don't like that. I'm normally not into fecal stuff. Like, I like skanks, I like dirty perfumes, I like dark. I mean, anyone that watches this channel knows I do like things that are dark, dirty, skanky, a little bit nasty. But for me, there's generally things that I would categorize it more in like the earthy, dirty type stuff. So things with a lot of sort of like earthy, dirty, muddy notes, things like that. That's the sort of dirt that I like. I also like a lot of pissiness and things like that. So like civet and stuff like that. And you know, I don't mind that kind of cheesiness that comes along with that as well. But fecal stuff, it's going to sound a bit silly, but I kind of draw the line there, because for me it's like, I'm not sure I want to smell like that, you know. But in this perfume, I really like it. It's the first, I think, sort of really heavy, because I mean, you get fecal nuances in a lot of perfumes, but for me, this perfume is very upfront with that fecal element. And this is the first sort of fecal perfume that I've got that I've actually enjoyed wearing. And the thing is, I've not only enjoyed this perfume, I have worn this a lot since I got it. When I first got it, I wore it like 4, 5, 6 days in a row. I was just, every day I was like, I want to wear that again. You know, I was like, it was kind of like enrapturing. I was, every day I'd get up and I'd think, oh, what should I wear today? And I'd have a look at my shelf and I'd kind of look at things, and then I'd be like, yeah, but no, I just want to wear hard leather again. Which is really surprising for me, because I thought when those fecal elements came up, I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to get into this. But I just love it. I think it's great. It's really done really well. It's to sort of speak about it, I think it is fecal. There's no, like, you can't deny it. I showed it to a friend of mine and she smelled it and she was like, oh yeah, you know, that booziness, that honey, okay. And then I said like, oh yeah, but can you smell the fecal side of it? And she was like, no, it's fine. She, you know, she's a muggle, but she's not entirely. She worked at Lush and things like that, so she's kind of gets fragrance and that. And then after a couple of minutes, I said, smell it now. And she had another go. She smelled it and she was like, oh yeah. You know, you can't deny it. It's definitely there. There is definitely like a nasty fecal element to this, but it's not overly strong. So you're always got this fecal undertone to what is realistically on top a very boozy, like rum and leather and honey. And they to me are like the three big notes in the top. You also get some of those kind of like spicy woody resins at the bottom there. So that styrax, that olibanum and the kind of cedar wood particularly are sort of just rummaging around in the bottom there. They're not too strong or prominent, but they're just there, just underneath all that. The cedar, I would say, is one of the most strong parts of this, but you've got this kind of like slight kind of resinous incensey woodiness sort of going on underneath it all. And then that iris, I'm not sure it's big in this. I do feel like you pick up that iris, almost like that kind of plastic powderiness of iris, but it's very subtle. It's not like a massive player. I think it sort of works in that middle to cool the whole fragrance down a touch, and it's really excellent. It really is. I really like it. And interestingly, my biggest issue with this perfume at this point is that it doesn't project enough. And you know, I would have thought it would be the fecal elements, and maybe I don't want this projecting more if it's going to be smelling, let's face it, quite barnyard and shitty. But it's not. For me, it settles down too quick. It's already, you know, wears very, very close. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It somewhat annoys me, and I wish it had better projection. But I'm not sure if it did have that. I'm not sure how nice that would be, because that honey is very thick and resinous, and then you've got that rum as well. Again, it's a very rich kind of scent. And then you've got the kind of that leathery kind of fecal element. Again, that's quite rich. And even on the base there, the woods, they're not that kind of dry, sharp kind of modern wood. It's very like resinous, sort of real kind of chunky wood in there. So I'm not sure if it projected more. I'm not sure. Maybe it might just be hideous. You know, it might just choke everyone out and just kill them. So maybe it's great that it is like that. But I feel like sometimes oh, come on, like, you know, like chuck some more smell out. Come on. But that's my biggest complaint about this fragrance. The rest of it, brilliant. So I haven't really talked about how it smells. I talked about the notes and that, but how does it smell? It smells like really smooth and like rich and opulent and quite seductive. I think it's very like, you know, there is the sweetness from that honey. I suppose the vanilla is in there playing a part. Honestly, I don't feel like I get a lot of vanilla. For me, it's way more of a honey. You get the honey note very prominently in this, and that sort of works that middle just to kind of like keep things like sweet and gorgeously kind of rich and thick and smooth. It is, say, quite a sticky fragrance. It feels sticky, you know. You got that honey, you've got a lot of like resin. It feels like a kind of sticky, stodgy perfume, but it's not cloying at all. And it's really, really gorgeous. It's very smooth, very like chic. I think this is very much like a very like chic kind of leather, which is interesting because leathers are often quite rugged, and especially when they've got like a lot of that kind of castoreum-y kind of vibe, you get a bit of a kind of rugged vibe to them, right? But this is very sort of sleek and slick and sort of chic feeling, which is interesting. I really like it. I think it's quite sexy. I think it's actually very, very, very sexy. I think it's a real sleazy perfume, actually. But the problem is I also think it's probably not a great sort of date night fragrance because of that fecal element. I mean, it's not safe at all. If you've got a partner, or you know, if you're going on a date or you're feeling dangerous or something, like, go for it. But you know, if you've got a partner that likes it, go for it. But this is a risky scent for that kind of thing, but with that kind of fecal element, because there are times to this where, say you've got that honey, you've got that booze, it's all very nice, it's all very like slick and opulent, and then you've got this kind of shit, and you're like, whoa, fuck. You know, it really kind of sticks out a little bit. It's not a safe scent in any way, but it's beautiful. I think it's a little bit difficult to wear. I think it's a little bit risky. I think it's a little bit pushing limits and boundaries of what it can get away with. I think it does it all so well, and I think it does get away with it, and I think it's brilliant, and I really, 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 really rate this fragrance. There's something about it that drags me to it over and over again, even though I shouldn't like this. For all intents and purposes, this is not my cup of tea. I like leathers, I like skanky, dirty leathers, but sort of boozy, sticky, fecal fragrances are probably not something I would gravitate towards, but this is beautiful, and I really, really enjoy it. I think it's excellent. So yeah, that's pretty much what I think of it. Who I think it's for, this is like seriously masculine fragrance. I think it's very masculine. I think a woman could pull it off. It's got that honey. It's, you know, it's there's nothing really too kind of like heavy one way or the other. It's just the kind of rough kind of, it's very like in your face fragrance. It's not messing about really. I say that with that low projection, the more I think about it, the more I kind of voice my opinion on it, I'm thinking now perhaps that's not a bad thing, because it is a very like masculine, gruff, in your face fragrance. So yeah, I think it is definitely masculine. I think a woman could wear it, absolutely, and I think it would be absolutely fine. I think you would smell great, but you'd have to be quite confident with it. That would be like my only warning. To be honest, I would say exactly the same to a guy though, because this is not a shy fragrance, and it's got those fecal elements, and you know, even if we step that to one side, it's still got that kind of thick honey, and you know, it's not an easy fragrance to wear. It's dark and quite like, you know, it reminds me of like, you know, if you're gonna kind of sort of frame it anywhere, it's like an S&M club or something, you know, it's not any run of the mill. So you've got to wear it with confidence no matter who you are. So I think that really applies to anyone. So I do think it's masculine. I think a woman can wear it, just wear it with confidence, but I think a guy needs to wear it with confidence as well. So when do I think it's for? You're gonna pitch this really in colder weather, but I've been wearing it like all spring. Like, so, you know, I mean, it has been locked down, so I've been wearing it at home, so it's kind of okay. I'm not sure. I think I would wear it out. It not in like when stuff gets really hot. Nah, definitely not. But in those kind of like, you know, again, I live in England. You know, it never gets really hot, so I do think you can wear it in like kind of cooler weather, and kind of medium weather. You know, spring, autumn, winter, great. Probably not in the summer. I think it's all going to get a little bit kind of like with that kind of sticky honey in there and things like that. You know, but otherwise dress it up or down, whatever you like. It's got that leather in it. I feel like with those kind of rough leathers and cedars, you can dress it up in it, and you're kind of keeping it a little bit chic and a bit edgy and a bit sort of dark. Dress it down and it's great, because it just sort of, you know, looks a bit scruffy, and that's great. So yeah, I mean, I think it's quite versatile in that sense actually, but it is a risky fragrance, but it's a really good fragrance. If I was to have like criticisms against it, I think it dials into a skin scent a little bit too quickly, and otherwise I feel like it's sort of also quite linear, and it's not overly complex, you know. It really is quite a simple fragrance, really. It's got that kind of like big sort of animalic Barnyard fecal opening. Already that's kind of dying down. There's still a bit of Barnyard in there for sure that keeps it sort of feeling a little bit dynamic, but otherwise it's really sort of a basic kind of like rough leather and honey scent. For me, as time goes on, it just turns into a very like honey and cedar kind of scent. So it is quite basic really, but it's really, really good. So they're my biggest criticisms, and I wouldn't say they're necessarily criticisms in the overall like picture of it. You know, but if you're gonna kind of levy anything at it, that would be what I would. Overall, say I think it's a great fragrance. Really, really enjoy it. A little bit risky, but if you want to try out something, perhaps this is not a terrible idea for someone a bit like me, who you think you like dirty stuff and dark stuff, but you're not too sure about fecal stuff. Like, give it a go, because I shouldn't like this, but I do. So yeah, you know, otherwise that's pretty much my thoughts on that. Hard Leather by Laurent Mazzone, a really interesting fragrance, and I'm really glad I've got it. Really great. It is quite expensive, so blind buys are probably not the best idea. I managed to get this at a reasonably decent price from France, so look around. But you know, otherwise great fragrance. It's 100ml, so say it is a little bit expensive, but you get a lot of it, so whatever's. Yeah, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and say if you seek it out or if you smelt it, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks very much. I'll see you all soon. Cheers.